I'm Lucy of Love Lucy Boots here in Westbury, and you're currently sitting in the lounge room / lounge bar of my little venue.
What do you enjoy about what you do?
Ooh, that's a good question. I suppose it depends when you ask that question what hat you'd like to know that I've got. It's a little bit about me. So I've had this spot, this venue for about 3 years. Initially opened the space as a wine room, and then I've expanded into doing what we refer to as the milk crate community. So takeaway coffee and community connection. And what's different about my venue is that it's in my house. So when I returned to Tassie, I wanted to be able to have the experience of almost inviting people into my home and having the experience of living life like a local. So this is what I do now. I'm quite established as a business, but I've got my finger in a few different pies in regards to, I'm a really strong supporter of small business and tourism. So I'm also involved in the Meander Valley Tourism and Business Association as well. As much as I can get people to shop small and support local, that's what you'll hear me sprouting all the time.
How did you get the name? Lucy Boots? Because I actually thought your name was Lucy Boots for a while.
Okay, yes, a lot of people do. I always tell the story about when I go down to vote at the town hall, they always look under B. No, it's not actually my surname. Look, no, Lucy is my name. I was named after my grandmother. I have just been called Lucy Boots for years. It's just a name that kind of happened when I was living in Melbourne. And I always just used to sign everything off as Love Lucy Boots. And when I was setting up the venue and looking at branding and marketing, my last venue, I had a little espresso bar in Wollongong that its name was Brown Sugar, but everyone called it Lucy. So I knew that my name would come into it. And I was trying to be smart about how often when you travel that you'll get home that night and you'll be like, what was the name of that little place? A little town we went through, had that really cute little, what was the name? So I figured that you'll always be able to remember Love, Lucy or Boots. And it makes people, when they come in, they're instantly able to remember my name, and it just makes for a nice connection. And a funny little story about this house, I had a lady that came in probably about 18 months ago who grew up in the green door next door, where Argentama, and she spent a lot of time in this house, and her aunt's name was Lucy and her surname was Boot. So she actually thought I'd named the house after her aunt.
Wow.
It's just random connection.
Bit of destiny. Really.
I know, right? I know. So that's how, and I knew, being the fact that it was going to be that informal type venue in regards to that feeling like you've come into my house, it needed to have my name in it.
How do you working and living at the same place?
It's interesting because I'm also renovating the house as well. So look, I've probably the first 12 months, I didn't have a very good balance, but definitely now 3 years into it, I've got to find a balance of knowing what works and what doesn't work. So I think the work-life balance is an interesting one. I think anyone finds that interesting. I think there's also the complexity that comes from running a small business in a small country town as well. So on one hand, it's great because kind of people know you and they know what's going on, but sometimes it's that thing about you also you don't have any privacy, but people know exactly what's going on. And often it's gotten a lot better now. I used to have more signage out on the front, which I've removed because like after hours at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd have people coming up the side door, and I have to always make sure the side door's locked now because sometimes people will just wander in. I've had people wandering through my house. Okay. So it's just that whole, you get to know, and as you saw from my very ferocious guard dogs out there, they don't really tell me what's going on. Yeah. So it's gotten a lot better, and it's always hard when you start a new business because you're trying to find your feet. You're trying to find what works for you. And I think any good small business owner is always adapting and is always changing, and that's, I suppose, in a way what I've done. So when I first opened this place, I initially started with the concept of a wine room, and then I noticed a gap in the market for takeaway coffee, and then that's just now evolved because we get foot traffic through during the day. We don't get foot traffic at night here. Westbury is not a tourist destination. It's a place that people pass through either on their way off the boat as they're headed south, or as they're going, for example, to Stanley or Cradle Mountain. It's a pass-through point. And so that's why I do more of the coffee now, because I can have more of a touch point with people, including, I suppose it's a bit of a joke that I'm also the information guide. So when people are coming in, it's not just, oh, here's your coffee. It's, oh, Matt, what are you up to? Where are you going? Oh my gosh, you've got to go and see these guys. You've got to go here. Did you know about? And then often my locals get involved in that as well. So the idea is about when people turn up for coffee, it's not just, oh, I'll just have a flat white and a croissant. It's about the experience. And that's why I run it as a milk crate community. I had a lot of feedback initially around why I don't allow indoor seating. And that's that whole idea about I didn't want to become known as a cafe or a restaurant, because that's not what I am. And I also didn't want to take away from other venues in regards to, we've got other great cafes. If people want a dining experience, I'm more than happy to go up here, depending upon what day of the week it is. And by people sitting outside, it means that there's much more of a sense of engagement and people talking to each other, as compared to when you just go and sit in a cafe. If you go and sit in a cafe, you might overhear and smile at the table next to you. Whereas here, when you're outside, there's much more of a sense of engagement. Oh, good day, where are you? What are you from? Same as by having kind of the communal table in here as well. So it's always, everything I'm trying to do constantly is about how do we enhance community engagement and how do we enhance social connection? Because I feel like in a way, post-COVID, we kind of lost that a bit, but we're starting to come back.
Can you talk a bit about how things you think changed in COVID?
I was running a hospo venue during COVID in New South Wales, so we were in a lot of lockdowns, obviously, versus what was happening in Tassie. And I was in a neighbourhood, so
This was in Wollongong?
In Wollongong, yeah, New South Wales. So what I really discovered there is people were coming out, so they had the chance to be able to see other people. A lot of people were working from home, and it was that sense of connection. And I suppose in a way, that's how I knew that the takeaway concept here would work, because when that first official lockdown happened Australia-wide, is we went takeaway and we never went back. Keeping in mind, I was only really small, I was only a 10-seater espresso bar there. So it was like, I knew this concept can work, and I try to be clever about it, because sometimes people want to talk, they just don't know how to. We kind of lost that skill set. So now it's, for example, a customer, they come in and I'm like, oh, can you just run that flat white out to the guy over there in the blue jumper, and can you just tell him I said such and such? Which basically means that then there's a connection formed. So the next time you come in, you might go, oh, hi, how you going? And the next time you might go, hey, Mark, how are you? Oh, how? And then it becomes a little bit of a flow on. So it's just setting up that baseline concept around getting people to talk. It's just and I suppose I saw that. So I'm also a social worker. So I did that for 20 plus years before moving back into hospitality. So I suppose that for me is connection and dynamics, and how groups form is just the way I view the world. Yep.
Was there any hospitality experience before Wollongong? Because you mentioned London and Melbourne.
Yeah, so I did hospitality all through university. So I did social work there, and then I worked in social work for a number of years. And when I came back from London, I took time off and worked in hospitality in WA. So I've always dabbled a little bit of it. And then 2014, I was living in Melbourne in social work and healthcare, and just one day went, I was just on a cycle of, I don't want to do this anymore. So I quit my job and sold my house, and then I went travelling for a number of years, and then came back and went, I don't know what to do now. I just spent some time in Latin America, love coffee, and I randomly went, I'll open a little espresso bar. And that's what I did, with no small business background, so I learned a lot from that, and I've learned a lot about how to pull things together and make it work. And that's why I said earlier around, I think as a small business owner, you've got to always be adapting. You've always got to go, what works, what doesn't work, what do people want, what don't they want, and have that really well communicated as well.
Yeah. So how many years did you have the Wollongong place?
I opened that in 2017, so 4.5 years, and then I sold that during a lockdown, which is quite amazing. And then I moved down here, so it was 4 years in November. So I had made a decision I wanted to move back to Tassie. So pre-COVID, once a week I was flying down looking at property, and then had purchased this property here in Westbury. And then we were due to come down to do a second inspection, and then there was lockdown was called in New South Wales. So the second time I ever saw the property is when we had to come and move into the house for 2 weeks quarantine, because we were coming from a hotspot. We had to quarantine in the house for 2 weeks, which was really funny because locals were like, oh, they've got COVID because they're in the house. No, this is just a requirement of us being here. So that was the second time I ever saw the house, when I walked in and just went, oh, what have I done? But it's been great. It's one of those houses that everyone refers to as being, everyone kind of remembers it. It's got a real history to it. So it dates back to 1870, and everyone kind of remembers it, but no one really remembers it as a standout. Oh, this is what it was there for. Lots of people, if you talk to different locals, the room you're sitting in now has been many people's bedrooms. Lots of people remember drinking in the house. And so this is the thing about, I think what people like is I'm giving it a new chapter. So I'm putting a lot of work into it, trying to retain the history of the house, but giving it some love in regards to the gardens and painting, and we've re-roofed and doing a lot of work inside as well. Yep.
And you moved with your father here?
I didn't move with Dad. So Dad initially moved down to help me renovate. So his plan was just to be here for 3 to 6 months. Yeah. Dad's a Devonport boy, and then that was the plan. And then he loved being back so much, he moved back. So he lives around the corner in Westbury's oldest house of 1828. So that was how that worked, and it works really well. I'm very fortunate to have him around. I suppose that it's my venue, but he kind of looks after everything outside, and people love having a chat with him, and he's very good. He'll usually always find a connection. He'll keep talking to you until he's, oh, I knew your dad way back when, which is lovely, and that's what people want. Yep.
Yes. I'm interested to know a little bit about, so coffee's obviously very popular.
Yes.
Any other products that are very popular, busy times of the week, that sort of thing?
That's a good question. It changes. So one of the big things that we do, so every Sunday now I do a wine bar walk-ins. So no bookings or anything. I do that from 2 o'clock. So it's almost a little bit like a Sunday session as such. And then in the colder months, I always do a different evening, such as like a wine or a whiskey night with local producers. And that's pre-booked. Sit around the communal table and do tastings and things like that. But our biggest day would be Park Run. Westbury Park Run started probably about 2.5 months, around about the same time as me. I think they're about 6 months behind me. And so every Saturday morning, Park Run down at the town common. And then I've become if you want coffee, this is where you come to afterwards. And that's really lovely. That's such a beautiful community. And I try to support that as much as I can. So every Saturday there's a lucky number, and if you get that lucky number when you cross the line, you get a free coffee from me. If you volunteer for the first time, I'll give you coffee and cake. Just recognizing that events like Park Run don't happen without that volunteer base, and it's really lovely because you get to then witness people coming up here, and that sense of community continues happening. And all my locals know on Saturday morning, if you're not a park runner, don't come between 9:30 and 10:30. Otherwise you'll stand in that queue.
Yeah.
So it just goes through phases, and it's really nice to see. When I started the concept, I literally just had a couple of milk crates outside thinking people would get their coffee and off they'd go. But it's really become a sense of a place of gathering, because there's not many other kind of places in Westbury that happens. Across the road where the old IGA used to be before it moved up the other part of town, that was your little community gathering spot where you caught up with people, whereas now what I even notice is people will drive past and they'll see you sitting outside and they'll get out and they go, "G'day, Matt, how are you?" They don't come into me, but it's that sense about being able to catch up with people, and it's creating a sense of community.
Memorable moments.
All of
that
it.
You've had.
All of it.
Or
all of
the
it.
biggest challenge.
Oh, two very different questions. The memorable moments, the sense of community, and to see the friendships and the connections. And I will say to people sometimes, "How are you guys friends?" "Oh, we met through here." So seeing all that, and sometimes when I'm there and I'm at the machine and I look out the window and I'm making coffee and I see those and people talking and laughing, and I think it's quite amazing to witness. So I think probably that Lucy Boots community is really special. Most challenging, I think probably anyone in small business will tell you, is running small business in hospitality in regional Tasmania. It's tough, but you can either gripe about it or just get on with it. But it's hard, and I think especially we're constantly competing against the big guys. So I also operate as a bottle shop as well, when people can just go to Dan Murphy's and they see it's just buy the $10 bottle of wine without seeing when that $10 is going. So what I try really hard to do here is I support the small producers, so that I try to make it so that the wine that I have here is not the wine that you can go and get at Dan Murphy's, but is bought directly from the producer, so that when I'm paying my bills, 100% of that money goes back to that family, rather than going to shareholders or anything like that. So it's very much about trying to keep things local, keep things small, and about recognising if we don't support the small businesses and the family-owned businesses, and we just start going to the Dan Murphy's or the Bunnings or whatever it might be, is we lose the beauty about what small business is. So it's always an interesting conversation I have with people when they're like, "Oh, I could get a $10 bottle of wine, that's fine, that's okay." You choose the type of society we live in by where you spend your money.
Yeah,
yep.
Putting your money where your mouth is.
Absolutely, yep.
What are your plans for the future of Love Lucy Boots?
To continue to survive. I don't know. It's always something that I'm always constantly looking at and thinking about. I'm probably going to do more events along the way. We've done a number of different things in the last 3 years. I've done worked with caterers, and we've done long table dinners, and we've done different events, and we did a big winter solstice last year with Frank and Lottie's. It's really about looking at what the community needs and about what they respond to, and also seeing about what else there is in the market. So if there's other businesses doing things, I also don't need to...
There's no point having a lot of competition and too many of the same type of thing. Yeah.
So I'll probably keep it that during winter I'll continue doing probably once a month kind of wine and whiskey nights, that type of thing. It's turning over nicely in regards to what I enjoy doing at the moment and how I'm doing it. This year I just want to focus on finishing the house off and then look a little bit more around where to from here. Yeah.
What do you think, to put you on the spot a bit, what do you think Westbury needs?
Oh.
And I say that this as part, because you're contributing to, is it the Meander Valley Business and Tourism Association?
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
So it's it's a complicated question, but what do you think might really work here? Or it might be a business opportunity, or might be something that, an organisation could look at doing in Westbury?
I think probably the biggest deficit at the moment is a focus on tourism. And I suppose in a way the Tourism Association's doing a fair bit of work on that. So last year we entered Deloraine into the top tourism town, successful with Tassie, and we won silver for Australia, which is pretty amazing, right? And when you look at the different events that are starting to happen in Meander Valley, such as Hop to Harvest, more people are getting to know Meander Valley. But it's about having someone, almost a business development person at council or a tourism person at council, who's got a strategy and a plan around that, and around what are we doing here? How do we help promote tourism, and how do we promote people coming through the area, and how do we have a place on the map for Tasmania? If you think about when you talk to people and say, oh, I'm going to Tassie, great, where are you going to? I'm going to Hobart, I'm going to Huon Valley, I'm going to Cradle Mountain. It's very rare that you get someone going, oh, I'm going to Meander Valley. So it's very much around how do we start to have a presence around that. And I think that with the Tourism Association, and lots of different individuals are doing an excellent job, but I think until council recognises there needs to be a focus on that and invests in that and says, yes, we're going to get a business development person, yes, we are going to get a tourism person to coordinate that and look at a strategy, it's always going to be difficult. It's always going to feel like we're all just doing little bits and pieces here and there. And I think that's probably the biggest struggle. For example, within Westbury, they're doing a lot of work at the moment with streetscape, which is amazing, but the amount of outdated signs that are here, all the outdated signs for all the different houses and everything, do you know what I mean? And this is something that I get that there's got to be priorities, but unfortunately sometimes the feel is, oh, that doesn't matter. But it does matter, because you look at the foot traffic of people coming through, and they want to know. They're here. It's great. We want to know. A couple more shops, boutique shops. I mean, we've got a pretty cool streetscape here in William Street now. In fact, I suppose Westbury's becoming known as quite unique when you look at what we've got: a wine room, we've got a milk crate community, we've got a distillery, we've got a jeweler, we've got a quaint little secondhand bookshop, we've got a butcher, we've got collectibles, we've got a couple of Tassie pickers, we've got Rustville, we've got Pern Steam World. Like, it's really unique opportunity here that does actually set us away from different small regional towns. And I think that's the stuff that we should be enhancing and embracing. And so we're doing some work around that. So we're currently entering Westbury into top tourism town for this year. So we'll see how we go. But it's all that. It's about how do we make sure we've got updated kind of collateral to give to customers when they come through. Great, you're here. Here's a little walking map. On that, why don't you make sure you go here and here? Which I love doing with people, but when I'm busy, I don't always have that opportunity to also play information guide as well. Does that make sense?
You can only wear so many hats.
That's right. That's right. And look, I think council does an amazing job, but it's very much around if you look at every other council in Tasmania, they've got a tourism/business development officer, and that's probably our biggest downfall. Yeah.
You've got a very good way with people. There's elections coming up later this year. You think about that?
Is this because I go to every council meeting?
I didn't know that. No.
I do. I go to every council meeting. And the reason for that is because I like to know what's going on, and I like to also be an advocate for council. So it's interesting because I hear a lot of things here, and people come in and they'll be like, did you hear council did blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, actually, that's not what happened. where'd you find that out from? Oh, I read it on Facebook. And it's, but actually what happened? And they'll be like, oh, I didn't know. Look, I think that I am very happy to run the campaign for anyone that's interested. I definitely think there needs to be a greater cross-section of people on council. It's an interesting dynamic to watch in that room as to what people are there for and why they're there. I do believe that for me, it's too hard to run a front-facing business and be a council representative as well, especially as when you see and hear the impact, especially quite political topics and emotive topics, and the experience that councillors have from the public. The public aren't kind. And I get that they're protective, and they're protective of issues that are going on and everything like that. But sometimes the lack of respect and lack of kindness it's quite appalling. And sometimes, that was probably just my kitchen falling apart. Sometimes that kind of makes me sad to think that people think that type of behaviour is okay. So long and short, no, I won't be running for council. But if you'd like to, I'm happy to run your campaign.
Very kind.
But I think that the more we can get people to know about council elections are coming up and, you know, you can be involved, the more we promote that with people, the better. Because I think a lot of people don't even know what it's about. And that's, as I said, I just like to go to council because I like to know what's going on.
Yep. And it's hard to try and make change if you don't know.
Correct. And I try and make change here. I've had people have come to my door to talk about an issue without recognising that I'm running a business and that's my first priority, as much as I'm happy to be involved in things. So it's that whole, you've got to look at small business and community and how it fits. Yep.
What's your favourite part of the Meander Valley?
Oh, all of it. I love the Meander Valley. I do. Westbury, can I say that? 45 William Street. I do. I love it all. And I love that sometimes it feels like when I walk down the street to go to the post office or the butcher, I feel like I'm a TV show and I'm like, hi, how are you? Hi. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I love Tassie and I love being back. And I think that there's a special uniqueness about Tasmanians. And I think that we really have that experience here around the way kind of people talk and chat, and we're interested, we're curious, and we want to know about people. And it's like when people, it's that fun, the Tourism Tasmania campaign, Come Down for Air. And it is. You think about when you go away and you come back and you walk out on the tarmac of the plane and you just breathe. So it's just, yeah, I like the fact is too, we've really got a beautiful mix here in Meander Valley, and also that you've got regional so close to the city. When people go, oh, Westbury, it's 23 minutes to town. So I've got the best of both worlds, and then half an hour up the road. So it's that, yeah, it's beautiful.
All right.
But don't tell everyone about it because we don't want the secret to get out.
Thank you, Lucy.
Pleasure.